Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's RNK Software Club's Video of the Week. And all you FTCU owners, have you downloaded the latest free monthly designs? Because the Beach Club logo on my screen came from our exclusive member designs. You need to visit the RNK Software Club and download the latest designs. And then your library will be full of all the different months of the year. And if you click on July 2021, you'll be able to see the latest free monthly designs. And so that's where I found the turtle design, some cool monogram borders, as well as a couple of great beach designs. And so what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is actually our symbol tool, because that's where the cute little stars in this logo came from. And so if you don't know what the symbol tool is, let me show you right now. You go up to the top and over to the right where this little yellow symbol button comes up. Now, for me, there's two of them, and this other one says Crazy Quilting, and that actually came from the Total Quilter software, and so we've got kind of a couple of different Crazy Quilting buttons. You won't have both of these tools unless you actually have activated both FTCU and Total Quilter. But the symbol tool comes with FTCU, and let me go ahead and click on that now and just notice how the anchor comes up, and that's because that's the last symbol that I used. It'll always kind of start with whatever you used last. And basically the anchor is an embroidery design, not a piece of artwork. So symbols are different than custom shapes. Let me show you. If I want to add a symbol to our embroidery design, I can simply just click and drag to add a little symbol of an anchor inside of that little ring like that. And if you want to, you could keep adding little anchors to your design and make as many of them as you want. It'll just, as long as you're using the symbol tool, you keep making symbols. Now you can change the symbol you're making, and they'll be all different kinds. And so if you'd rather do airplanes, then you choose the airplane and click and drag to make a little airplane. Now notice how the further I drag, the bigger my airplane gets, and the less I drag, the smaller it'll be, and how I can control the orientation of the airplane. And so this is kind of how it works, right? You just click and drag to create that embroidery. So when I click and drag, if I go along the horizon, my line that kind of comes across the center of the airplane shows you the original orientation of that design. But of course you can change it by just moving your mouse and put it down on any angle you want. So it's 2 clicks to make a little airplane like that. And so these are called symbols. And what if you wanted to, what if you're a turtle lover? And you're thinking, boy, I love that turtle. I'd like to have that turtle in my, collection of symbols so that I could easily use that over again in other designs. So you try and select the turtle, and of course the logo, when we brought it in from the library, was all grouped together, and so we need to ungroup it. So once we've ungrouped it, the turtle will not be all grouped together and easy to select anyways. Now you're going to have to kind of pick all those pieces. And one way we could do it would be to use a lasso tool and kind of like lasso around the shapes of the turtle. And so as long as I go around all of the shapes of the turtle, but don't go around the airplane. And it's okay to cut across that airplane, but just don't go fully around it. Then it will select the shapes of the turtle. That would be one way to do it. Maybe another way would be to understand the sewing sequence and how the design actually started with the turtle. And so if we just wanted to pick the turtle out of there, another way would be to use your select tool and select from the sequence box. So looking at the beginning of the sequence, there's the first, piece of the design. It's a little piece of the turtle, and you'd scroll down in the sequence window until you find, well, there's the first part of those rings. That's not part of the turtle. So from the shape previous, sort of scrolling backwards to the top again, hold Shift on your keyboard to select all of the shapes in between. So however you select the turtle, it doesn't matter. But once you've got the turtle selected, if you want to add it to your selection, your collection of symbols, you go to the Tools drop-down menu where you look for the option to save a symbol. And it brings you to the box where all your symbols are. And now you're going to give it a name, right? Turtle. And if you're going to have more than one turtle, call it turtle number 1, or call it turtle beach turtle, or one color turtle, or whatever you want to call it. Just give it a name. But now, next time you're designing and you click on your symbol tool, you can scroll down to the letter T to find your turtle. And so let's just keep scrolling down. It's alphanumerical, so it's going to go all the way down to the letter T, where you'll find your turtle. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about symbols and maybe kind of some of the limitations. And the star was kind of an interesting example because there are several stars available, and I've even added a few to my collection. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about here. So when you scroll through, you're going to find star number 1, star number 2, star number 3. Those are ones that the software came with. These little star dots is something that I like to make and use. Star Satin, again, something that I made. And then star, I think that one also came with the software. And so the one that I used for the design here, I think is the one that was called star. No, this is a filled with a border is what that'll be. It'll have a fancy fill with a border. So it wasn't that one. I think it might have been star number 1. Yeah, so star number 1 gives kind of like 5 different distinct stitch directions, and I really liked that for my small satin stars. And so here's the question: how small and how big can I make these little stars, right? What's suitable? And so I think you can see here that if I try and make them too small, I really don't get much of a star, do I? And so there are limitations to this tool. It gives you the artwork shapes that make up this star, and you can make them bigger or smaller, but there will be a limit to how small will be successful, and it's going to be based upon the stitch length, and the size. So if you make them too small, the software doesn't really have any sort of distance to make kind of a minimum stitch and still form that. So you really have to be careful when you're making them. I think the small ones are pretty obvious when they're not being successful, that you've gone too small and you could just basically try a little bit larger. That looks pretty good. It's when is too large then, Trevor? Is there such a thing as too large? So if I make this larger, still looks pretty good. How big can I go? And I guess the real question becomes, and then the other question might be what happened there. But so the question becomes, how do you know when it's too large? And that's kind of what the software is doing here, is it's kind of telling you here. I'm going to click and drag one. So as those columns get longer, right, and look at them, the distance, there's a maximum. If I'm doing a stop right now and just take my select tool and show you that if I select this one that looks all messed up like that, and I just make it smaller, it'll probably come back to life again. And what's happening is these stitches are really long there. So at that size, now, what can I do about those long stitches? Because why do they show all messed up like this? It's because the software is letting you know, hey, anything longer than a certain stitch length, the machine's not going to want to stitch it. And so if you measure it, it sort of seems like it'll start the column, but as soon as it gets past 12 millimeters, all right, you want to do it in inches, fine, change to inches. As soon as you go past like ½ an inch, it's too long for a satin stitch. Now, there's a solution to that if you really wanted to use this star at this size, and you need to change the type of stitch because it's been made as a satin, and you could change it to a patterned fill stitch. Bingo. My stitches all came back. And so understand the limits when you use a symbol are going to be based upon something that I can't really fully teach in a 5-minute, 10-minute, or 15-minute video. It's when is things too small and when are things too fat? Generally speaking, you need to be 1.5 millimeters wide to get a nice column. And so if you go to metric and you measure and you're getting columns that are less than 1.5, see that 1.7, you're probably going to have some sort of trouble with those. And if they're getting into half, if you try and take the turtle and use that turtle design at a size that's very small, it'll be obvious that the stitches are too small. It won't look nice on the screen. And if you measure them with your ruler, you'll understand that they're only 0.9 of a millimeter. And so what's happening is the definition of the turtle kind of gets lost. And so is there a minimum and a maximum? Yes, but it's more or less based upon your understanding of the type of stitch that's being created and your ability to take command of it, because you could probably make this turtle really big as well, but you might need to go in and look at some of the fatter columns and change them, right? If you wanted to make the turtle extra large. And so I don't mean to kind of like leave you guys with questions, but this is the theory that you were always learning. So now you've made the turtle and you're starting to get, it's nice and big and you're going to put it on a towel or something, but there's a few spots that are kind of starting to become those gaps. So what you probably need to do at this stage is ungroup it and then select the piece that's giving you some trouble. Now here's another alternative solution. Instead of changing it straight all over to a pattern fill, which kind of flattens it out, makes it look more smooth, the alternative would be you could leave it as a satin and then use your properties box to go to the split tab and turn on, for example, a random split and give it a minimum and a maximum. So we'll say the minimum stitch should be no smaller than 3 and the maximum should be no bigger than 5, and say apply. And now you'll see that starting at 3 millimeters, it splits that. And it doesn't make anything longer than 5, so it has to split it more than once. So all that said, I've shown you how to create a symbol, so save your own symbols. Understand that a symbol is not a single shape like your custom shapes, where sure, I might have the shape of an anchor, but this has got no stitches in it. It's simply an embroidery artwork. There's no stitching in it. I could create stitching by coming down to the bottom, but so that's where symbols are different. They already have the stitching and you've already determined what kind of stitching you want to use. And so why do I have my own stars? Because there's other ways to carve them up. And so here's an example. I'll go back to the symbol tool and go to star. I called it star satin, and similar but different. So notice the split satin effect happening there. So I made this star to be up to a kind of around 1/2 inch to 1 inch in sort of satins that go in different angles than the one that the software came with. And so they'll make different stars and they'll be appropriate in different times at different designs. So that's another way of carving up a star. And the last one that I threw in there just for fun was the star dot. So now we're talking about a little teeny tiny star that I like to use to put a small dot in a design. It's basically a run stitch, like a 5-pointed, that one's actually, here, star dot 2. That's the one I was looking for. That one actually had no stitches in it, so it's just the artwork that was saved as the symbol. So that was an error as far as I'm concerned. But this little star dot tool is meant to make little tiny dots that are where each stitch is really only kind of that 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters long, so that it makes a nice little dot. You could use it to put a little, highlight on an eye of a little animal or something like that, little white dot. That's the idea. So I have different symbols that I've created, and you can create them too. Anytime you have a design, whatever you select, one or more shapes of embroidery, you can say tools and save it as a symbol. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and you learned lots of new things. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday weekend. Happy Canada Day. Happy 4th of July. Thanks from everybody at Floriani. Have a great day and bye for now.